herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI-Talk und das ist ein Interview, das ich echt gerne führe, weil es einer meiner Lieblingsaktien ist. Es ist ein Long-Term-Play für mich. Ich habe das ja auch schon vor 2-3 Jahren gekauft und in diesem Jahr habe ich es ja wieder auf meine Empfehlungsliste genommen, weil die Aktie zurückgekommen ist, auch vor allem aufgrund des Cannabis-Rückgangs, sage ich mal, oder Cannabis-Stock-Rückgangs, muss man sagen, wo sie dann auch teilweise betroffen sind, obwohl sie ja gar keine Cannabis-Aktie sind und für mich das eigentlich nur extrem kleines Nebenbusiness ist. Brent Charleton ist bei mir, er ist CEO der Company und ich werde ihm jetzt ein bisschen auf den Zahn fühlen und hoffe, dass das dann trotzdem meine richtige Entscheidung war, dass ich die Aktie auf die Empfehlungsliste genommen habe. Brent, thank you have time, and I said in my German introduction, you're one of my favorite stocks. The reason is simple, you do exactly that, or this is exactly the kind of stock what I really like. What really I like is you have a long-term growth story, you have a great technology, and that's the reason why I put your stock this year on my recommendation list for 2020. I'm still 50% up, also with the lows, what we saw, it's now a little bit, and I think that a big portion of this correction is the cannabis sector, the down in the cannabis sector. For me, is cannabis sector only a nice bonus on your company. For me, it's more the technology that you use, especially in all kinds of products, and not only in cannabis. And so for me, is this now the second chance to buy in? Then now your company is much more advanced, has much more deals, has much more agreements, much more product lines outside, and so for me is now ready to roll, and this cannabis decrease have for me the second chance to buy another portion. So question, is really cannabis the only issue why your share or for your point of view, we don't know it, is really cannabis a big portion of the decrease in the stock price?
It's part of it certainly. When you look at the slowing of infrastructure build out from some of our announced partners, there was cause for concern from some of our shareholders, and that equated to a sell-off. However, the relationships that we do have in the cannabis space for many of our partners are still very robust, and the commercialization of our technology in this space will come into action this year. The other part of it might have been the expectation of profitability for fiscal 2019, which we missed on the bottom line, but had tremendous growth top line. Right, so we're investing for growth at the moment with both EnWave parent company and NutraDried, our snack food company. For fiscal 2020, the target is to hopefully be bottom line profitable, or at least cash flow break even. So that's our focus over the coming quarters here with Q1 behind us. Q2, Q3, Q4 we're anticipating to be quite strong, both on the machine sales side and NutraDried Muji sales side. So I would equate again the sell-off to lack of profitability in fiscal 2019. And cannabis, call it not implosion necessarily, but weakness in the Canadian marketplace. But what our shareholders really need to know is that we're not just active in the cannabis space in Canada. We are very active in Europe and beyond. The most recent licenses we have were granted in Australia and New Zealand and Europe actually for cannabis.
You are still in the cannabis index. There was, I think, there is an index outside, and I think one time you was part of the index.
Correct. Yes, the HMMJ ETF.
You're still in there.
To our knowledge, we haven't been completely sold out on that position, but certainly that didn't help when all the big names went down. We had a sell-off for us as well because we were up.
Yeah, but for a lot of investors, look of this kind of index. So when you are portioning and then the index going down, normally the people sell all the stuff. So and all the related product what's compared to this index also sell it down. And so that's for me also that bringing pressure on the stock.
For sure, but I can't emphasize enough that we're not a cannabis company. We are a pick and shovel play that happens to participate in that vertical, but we're so well diversified, as you've mentioned, in multiple food verticals, and of course our consumer packaged goods snacking company, NutraDried, dominates our revenue generation at this time. So certainly we have upside potential with further commercialization in cannabis, but we're not a pure cannabis play.
No, they're far away. So I think our last interview was in September. What are the highlights? And you're coming up with a lot of news. In the meantime, what are the highlights since September from the news flow?
Well, from the news flow, I think we've just been consistent in bringing out additional commercial licenses and sales of machinery. Many of the recent announcements have been tied to entry scale machines. That's perfectly fine because, as previously described, these smaller commercial units hopefully will provide enough evidence that their business case that our partners are pursuing justifies further CapEx investment for larger scale machines to go out. So through Q1, October 1st till today, we've signed 6 commercial licenses, I believe, which is tremendous. If you look at our performance year over year, if we could do that in a year, let alone a quarter, we'd be very pleased. But we have far higher aspirations for this year. We hope to get north of 10 to 15 new commercial licenses, new arrangements, and of course, at least 8 to 10 large-scale purchase orders from both current and new licensees.
Wow. So, do you have so far revenue guidance for 2020? You have a calendar year.
So our fiscal year is September 30th,
yes,
and we'll come up with the fiscal numbers typically end of year in December as we wrap up the calendar year. And so for growth for 2020, we're hoping we did. So let's actually go back a second here. In fiscal 18, we did north of 20 million. Fiscal 19, we did north of 40 million. In fiscal 20, we hope to be north of 60 million. So we hope to have continued growth on a $20 million incremental trajectory.
And on the bottom line, it should be hopefully cash flow free or cash flow positive or
break even.
Break even.
And of course, the 2 separate business units standalone, we're hoping to be break even at a minimum. Obviously for the machine sales side, more so than NutraDried. NutraDried, we expect positive cash flow. And so with NutraDried, because they have very strong growth aspirations, there will be investment. So when we're reporting over the coming quarters, the additional spend on marketing and what have you is all for the purposes of growing that into an entity that we can potentially divest or spin out to maximize shareholder value.
But this is the long-term plan.
Long-term plan, not near-term. We want both units, again, very solid financially, cash generation standpoint. And then opportunistically decide what to do, how to leverage that NutraDried business unit to maximize value for shareholders. Hopefully within the next 1 to 3 years, we'd like to see some big opportunity come about.
Today you're coming up with a good press release, also with a German company. So maybe you can fill us in a little bit. How is this only one of them, or is this maybe a major step also for the company?
So I'm thrilled with the announcement that we were able to share with the market this morning. Market reaction wasn't as strong, and perhaps I can help provide more detail to the importance of this relationship. Gaia Group did about $4.8 billion in revenue, euro in revenue last year. They are incredibly active, and I would say thought and technical leaders in both the food and pharmaceutical industry for dehydration technology. So the announcement we put out this morning was specific to the pharmaceutical industry, where we will collaborate and leverage their expertise and intellectual property to scale up the machine that was currently sitting with Merck Pharmaceutical for vaccination dehydration. And if successful through this collaboration, we would allow Gaia to build and sell vacuum microwave drying machines into the pharma industry and share as a percentage of the net proceeds received from the sale of those machines in the future. This is the fastest path, in our opinion, to monetization of our IP in the pharma space. So that being said, there's now interest obviously in the food space from Gaia, and being such a massive drying company, who knows what can happen as that relationship evolves.
So that means they have now the portion worldwide for pharmacy?
Correct, with obviously performance metrics tied to the relationship, so it's not a situation where we've carved out the IP for that vertical without certain returns coming to us in an adequate timeline.
So this is a game changer in the area of pharmacy, I must say.
It allows us to prospectively commercialize the technology in a meaningful way in pharmaceutical applications, and full transparency, our current ability would not allow us to vigorously enter that space. So again, the purpose of the agreement is to leverage their know-how, their presence, their network, and so that if we can get to a state, the machinery that is, to a scale that's suitable, then they can run with it, and hopefully both of our companies will make lots of money.
Mm-hmm. That's then it's really not really understandable how the market reaction.
No, it's not. So that's why we're, I'm participating in interviews like we are doing today to try and shed a bit more light on the importance of this relationship and how that prospectively could evolve and be material for our business in the future.
Okay. Any other big highlights from the last 3 months, and should we know something what we can expect for the next 6 months?
Well, I would say back to the number, just the sheer number. Like, we're hitting an inflection point in terms of the acceptance of the value proposition that we offer in our technology. So we've got many companies within our business development pipeline that we're working through actively negotiations right now to sell more machines and sign more licenses. Mm-hmm. So that in its entirety is meaningful to our business for the future. For the next 6 months, what's very important is conversion from those commercial licenses that have already been signed to scale up. So several of our licensed royalty paying partners finding and executing business cases that demand increased capacity. So for us, again, if we can sell 8 to 10 large scale machines, that would get us to a profitable state. So that's our focus, is over the next 6 months, is selling as many large scale machines as we possibly can. And on the NutraDried side, operated by an independent management team we put in place, it's for them to get that continued growth trajectory on top line and bottom line through more robust distribution in retail, grocery, convenience store, food service in the United States, and also internationally into Canada.
Okay. So, but is not the NutraDried is not a plan to go over to Europe?
At this time, there's so much runway domestically that the focus is to optimize that, and that alone takes a huge effort. U.S. being one of the largest markets in the world, and that's perfectly fine because our partners in the likes of Arla Foods and Friesland Campina, two of the largest global dairy companies situated in Europe, are currently selling product on a market evaluation basis. And as I mentioned before, we're hoping that those relationships, such as those, evolve into larger scale machine orders, and then more meaningful royalties being paid back to our business.
Okay. Brent, thank you for the update.
Welcome.
I think it was really a lot of information. Ja, extrem spannend. Der Grund, warum ich die Aktie auf die Empfehlungsliste gesetzt habe, hat ja auch am Anfang gleich mal gesagt, allein das Umsatzwachstum, was Sie jetzt momentan gezeigt haben, ist enorm. Natürlich kommt unter dem Strich noch nicht wirklich was raus, aber man sieht, wohin die Richtung geht. Und für 2020, die haben ein schiefes Geschäftsjahr, das im September endet, das heißt am 1. Oktober wieder anfängt, ist ganz klar, dass sie heuer um die 60 Millionen Umsatz machen. Und am Ende eine positive Null steht, beziehungsweise positiver Cashflow. Was allerdings wirklich spannend ist, oder wie will er das erreichen? Ganz einfach, sie wollen mehr Maschinen verkaufen und natürlich bekommen sie über die Lizenzen natürlich auch einiges rein. Und diese Lizenzen sind extrem spannend, weil die natürlich auch teilweise am Umsatz hängen. Aber spannend ist es auch mit ihrem eigenen Produkt, das ist das Munchies-Produkt. Schmeckt extrem gut, lecker. Habe ich bei einer großen Kaffeekette hier auch schon gekauft. Wirklich ein klasses Produkt, deswegen habe ich auch gefragt, ob es nach Europa irgendwann mal kommt, aber momentan schaut es nicht so aus, wie wenn es nach Europa expandieren wollen. Das hängt auch mit dem zusammen, dass sie ja sehr viele Lizenzabkommen gemacht haben. Allein im ersten Quartal haben sie 6 neue Lizenzabkommen abgeschlossen, die normalerweise mit einer kleinen Maschine anfangen und dann in einer großen Maschine übergehen, und ihr braucht ungefähr 8 bis 10 große Maschinenorders, damit sie dann dementsprechend Cashflow positiv sind. Und an dem arbeiten sie jetzt massiv daran, dass dies passiert. Was extrem spannend war, das war heute ist Mittwoch, keine Ahnung, irgendwie, what's day is today? Wednesday day 21th?
Or so 22nd of January.
22nd. Yeah. Am Mittwoch, dem 22. Jänner, haben sie ja extrem interessante News bekannt gegeben, und zwar mit GEA oder mit einer Tochter von GEA, die diese Produkt jetzt im medizintechnischen Markt einsetzen will. Denn auch dort muss sehr viel getrocknet werden und deswegen ist es dort extrem wichtig, dass man dort im Fuß reinkriegt. Und das geht dann natürlich am leichtesten, wenn man einen Global Leader natürlich dabei hat, der einem quasi das Ganze macht. Das ist die GEA oder GEA-Tochter. Und das ist natürlich für mich, muss ich schon eher sagen, ein ganz neues Standbein, das extrem profitabel sein kann. Ja, das war es eigentlich schon. Das ist auch der Grund, warum ich die Aktie neu genommen habe, denn die Aktie ist unter Druck gekommen, meines Erachtens vor allem, nicht nur, weil sie ihre Gewinnzahlen nicht erreicht haben 2019, das ist meines Erachtens nebensächlich, der Umsatz ist nämlich massiv gestiegen, sondern weil sie im Cannabis auch drinnen sind, auch Cannabisindex drinnen sind und dieser Downtrend, was wir im Cannabis gehabt haben, hat dazu geführt, dass die EnWave massiv gedrückt worden ist. Ja, falls ich am Anfang jetzt nicht gesagt habe, ich habe einen Conflict of Interest, ich bin Aktionär. So I don't say it in the beginning, I have a conflict of interest, I am a shareholder. Und das ist, glaube ich, auch jetzt ein sehr, sehr guter Zeitraum oder Zeitpunkt, um die Aktie nachzukaufen. Ja, das war's von EnWave im Jänner 2020, Vancouver. Tschüss und Baba. Thank you.
Welcome.